of Wages 2019. Code of Wages Act 2019 is a summation of 4 different acts. Earlier, there was Payment of Wages Act, Minimum Wages Act 1948, Payment of Bonus Act 1965, Equal Remuneration Act 1976. In the 4 acts subsume panni, we have Code of Wages Act 2019. And what is the importance of Code of Wages Act 2019? It covers the concept of wages. What is wages? What is the minimum wages? If the employees are left to their own discretion to decide the wages, then each employee will decide their own wage structure. Yeah, and they will not give importance to the employees. The wages that will be paid will be very low. So to protect the workers, to protect the employees, Code of Wages Act 2019 was established. And it regulates the wages of workmen and also the supervisory people. So it is not just to the workers, but it applies even to supervisory level. To every employee in the organization, Code of Wages 2019 is applicable. Now we'll go to the first definition. What is wages? Code of Wages, the first important definition is what is wages. So it is applicable to all the employees. Which is workers plus supervisory cadre. All employees in the organization. And who controls the Code of Wages? Code of Wages wages எவ்வளோ அப்படி determine பண்றது? Who's the person who has the authority to make provisions under Code of Wages Act 2019? Both central and state government has powers with respect to certain sector. State government has power with respect to central government has power with respect to railway, mine and oil field. Railways, mines and oil field. In the 3 sector Code of Wages Act, the provisions will be controlled by central government. In all other cases, in all other sectors, the implementation of the provision of Code of Wages Act will be governed by state government. Okay. So Code of Wages Act controls and determines wages that is applicable for all the employees in the organization. For railway, coal mines and oil fields, it is controlled by central government, and in other cases the state government will have power on implementation of the provisions. Now we come to the definition of wages. Code of Wages. Now Code of Wages. So what does wages stand for? Wages is defined under section 2Y, 2 subsection Y of Code of Wages Act 2019. It states that wages will include all remuneration that is payable to a person employed in employment or work done in employment that can be expressed in terms of money. So it includes any payment that is made towards the employment that can be expressed in monetary terms. So if it is provided in kind, if wages are provided in kind also, if it can be expressed in monetary terms, it is called as a wages. So if I have worked in an organization for 30 days and instead of paying me wages, they gift me a motorbike. Now, it is something that can be expressed in monetary terms. I know the value, I know the price. So, it can be expressed in monetary terms, so it will be regarded as wages. It includes salary and allowances. So, what is included in wages? Salary and allowances, which can be expressed in monetary terms. Okay, so that is basic pay, dearness allowance, retention allowance, and all the other allowances like HRA, uh, your leave concession, everything. Okay, and the value of remuneration in kind cannot exceed 15 percentage of the total value. So wages has to be provided in, what is wages? Wages includes salary and allowances. Okay, that is expressed in monetary terms. Okay, and this salary and allowances, if it is paid in kind, it cannot exceed 15 percentage of total wages. So I cannot pay 100 percentage of the wages in kind. The wages paid in kind will be limited to 15 percentage. Is it clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And what does wages exclude? Okay, wages include salary and allowances that is expressed in terms of money, and if it is in kind, it is limited to 15 percentage of total wages. Now, in the allowances and salary is a broad term. So, what are included under allowances and salary? What are excluded? So, basic pay, dearness allowance, retention allowance, cash value of food concessions, which we saw in EPF and ESI, the same thing is applicable here also. These four factors are included in the term wages under 2Y. What are excluded? Bonus, house accommodation, HRA, contribution towards PF, contribution towards pension, conveyance allowance, leave travel concessions, any amount that is paid to defray special expenses in the nature of employment, settlement of courts, overtime allowances, commission, gratuity, all these are kept outside the purview of the wage definition. So, இதெல்லாம் வந்து உங்களுக்கு it will be over and above your wages. Wages, ideally, it will include basic pay, DA, retention allowance, cash value of food concessions. இந்த நாலு தான், just like how we saw in EPF, it includes these four things only. It excludes bonus, PF, pension, conveyance allowance, traveling allowance, HRA, any house accommodation provided in kind. Quarters கொடுக்குறாங்க, railway quarters இருக்கும், any government organization, they'll have a quarter facility. So that is provided in kind, that is a facility provided in kind. But that is also kept outside the purview of wage definition. The amount that is paid to defray any special expenses, commission, gratuity, these are kept outside the purview of wages. If any of these amount is more than half percentage or such percentage as prescribed by the government, then it will be included in wages. Okay? If any of these amount is greater than half percentage or any such percentage that is specifically defined by government. See, in case of bonus, the bonus has a specific percentage. We'll see that in the coming slides. Government has prescribed what is the minimum bonus that is to be paid and what is the maximum bonus that can be paid. So if I am paying higher than the maximum bonus fixed by the government, then whatever higher amount that I am paying, that will form part of my wages. Okay? PF pension kila, there are separate acts, and the act specifically states that it does not form part of the wages. So it will not form part of the wages. Conveyance allowance, there is no specification anywhere. So conveyance allowance, if it is more than half percentage of the total wages, then whatever is the excess amount, excess greater than half percentage, will be included in my wage computation. Okay. So what is included in wages? Basic pay, DA, retention allowance, cash value of food concession, and any allowances greater than 0.5 percentage of my wages. Bonus, pension, PF higher than the limit fixed by the government. Okay, that will be included in my wages. Is the wage definition clear? This is very important. You can get a question on what is wages as per Code of Wages Act. What is included and what is excluded. Okay, so you will have to write all this. Remuneration in the form of salary and allowances that can be expressed in monetary terms. This is payable in course of employment. If it is paid in kind, it is limited to 15% of the total wage amount, and it does not include bonus, HRA, PF, pension, gratuity, overtime allowance, etc., unless it is greater than half percentage of the wages, half percentage of the total wages, or a percentage that is prescribed by the government. Next important thing, there should not be any discrimination. There should not be any discrimination on account of gender, or no person will be given a discriminating wages. Okay, so the minimum wages given should be same. There should not be any discrimination between employees. So if you take the case of IT companies or any private sector companies, they will have different wages. They will have different salary structure. They will negotiate salary with every employee. ஒரே கேடர்லயே it is not like government. In case of government, in ஒரு கேடர்னா அந்த கேடருக்கு the salary is fixed. Everyone will be paid that salary. But in case of private company, managerனா ரெண்டு பேருமே மேனேஜரா இருப்பாங்க. But their total CTC will differ. ஒருத்தரோட CTC 7 lakhsனா இன்னொருத்தரோட CTC might be 10 lakhs. It depends on from where he was previously employed, what is his negotiation skills. So based on that, so even though they are placed in the same cadre, their salaries will be different. But their wages, minimum wages will be the same. That is basic, DA will be the same. Basic plus DA plus retention allowance, cash value of food concession. Retention allowance and cash value of food concessions you will not see in private sector. That is mostly seen in factories. So basic plus DA will be the same. Anga vande they will not discriminate. The discrimination will come in the other allowances. Other allowances, they will provide some special allowance or some special benefits, and then cause this difference. So there should not be any discrimination with respect to the minimum wages. That is the wages part. There should not be any discrimination as per Code of Wages Act. And with respect to gender also, there should not be any discrimination. Now next we come to the most important part. Minimum wages. Appropriate government shall fix the minimum wages. Appropriate government சொல்றது central government in case of railway, mines and oil fields. It is state government in all the other sectors. So this appropriate government will have to fix minimum wages. This is the most important part of Code of Wages, because it protects, minimum wages protects the employees, especially the unskilled employees. unskilled workers, laborers. They don't have any bargaining power, and hence there is a good possibility that in a capitalist economy, the owners of factories can exploit the workers. So minimum wages is set by the appropriate government. Appropriate government will be either center or state. They will fix the minimum wages that is payable for each segment. So employees here, மூணு segment you can divide. Unskilled, semi-skilled and skilled. 3 categories. So minimum wages, you can try googling what is the minimum wages in Tamil Nadu. You will get 3 categories: unskilled, semi-skilled and skilled. For each of the 3 categories, minimum wages will be fixed by the state government. No employee can employ any person below this minimum wages. Minimum that much amount has to be paid. So, நீங்க மத்த allowances எதுவுமே கொடுக்கலனாலும் minimum this much salary is mandatory. Okay, so any establishment that is getting covered under Code of Wages Act, and all the establishments are covered under Code of Wages Act, and minimum wages has to be complied with. Okay, now minimum wages, like I said, it can be based on 3 categories: skilled, unskilled and semi-skilled. Number costing we saw 2 type of wages. One can be on time rate basis, another one will be on piece rate basis. So in both cases minimum wages will have to be fixed. So central government or state government will fix minimum wages based on time rate, and the same on the time rate length divide panni they will arrive at the piece rate. And that is the 1 hour work panna, this is the time rate, hourly basis. So piece rate எப்படி calculate பண்ணுவாங்க, 1 hour the normal production எவ்வளோ இருக்கும், and the 1 hour time rate by the normal production during that 1 hour will give you your piece rate, because piece rate differs from each factory. ஒரு கேஸ்ல it will be based on number of units, இன்னொரு கேஸ்ல it will be number of kilos, and the time required will change. Time required will differ. So government will not be able to identify piece rate for each factory. So it will fix on time rate basis. At the time rate the normal production identify panni divide panna, you will get the piece rate. So minimum rate of minimum wages will be fixed by the appropriate government. That is the minimum wages that is payable by any employer to an employee. Now there are 3 methods in which this minimum rate of wages can be fixed. Okay. One is your basic pay plus cost of living index allowance. Okay, government at regular intervals of time, they produce or they publish a cost of living index. Okay, so cost of living index வந்து நம்மளோட current price inflation consider பண்ணி at every 3 months cost of living index will be published. Now when the cost of living index goes up, your wages also need to increase, because the price, that means cost of living increase agudana, the prices of various products are increasing. So you need more money to buy those products and continue your standard of living. So based on cost of living index, your cost of living index allowance will be increased. Okay. So basic pay plus cost of living index allowance. Next one, the basic pay without cost of living index allowance. Basic plus cash value of cash concessions. Okay, cash value of food concession. So essential products, okay, instead of giving a cost of living allowance, so when the cost of living index is increasing, the prices of various products are increasing, instead of paying the employees with the additional and the margin of increase, the employees will be given a concession on the essential products. Okay, they will be given a discount. The essential products, you can buy it at a discount rate. So there is a cash, so the cash value of the concessions that are being given, the discounts that is given, and the percentage of discount, நீங்க வந்து cash value ல convert பண்ணா, you will get what is the minimum wages. So basic pay plus cash value of food concession, or basic pay plus cost of living allowance. The third manner in which the government will fix is the all inclusive method. All inclusive method na minimum wages is 15,000 per month. All inclusive. You can either use it as basic pay plus cost of living allowance and then divide panikalam, illa basic plus cash value of food concession panikalam, but your minimum wages is 15,000. This is an all inclusive method. All inclusive method is the one that is generally followed. Based on all-inclusive method, each company will adopt either basic pay plus cost of living allowance or basic plus cash concessions. Okay. So minimum rate will be fixed by the appropriate government based on the basic wages, which will have a plus a cost of living allowance, or without a cost of living allowance. If it is without cost of living allowance, there will be a cash value of food concession or an all-inclusive rate. Now, how is this basic wages fixed? So state government or central government, they will appoint committees, because the government does not have enough expertise to decide on fixing of wages. So they will appoint a committee, and the committee will hold inquiries. They will assess the market. They will assess the cost of living. They will assess what is the current wages that is being paid, and then they will recommend fixation and revision of wages. Because first time fix pannaru, every 5 years we need to revise the wages. So they will recommend on fixation as well as revision of wages. So once they have recommended that this is the revision from 15,000, we have to increase the wages to 17,000 now, because there is a increase in the cost of living index, because of which there should be a 2,000 rupees increase in the minimum wages. Now that is a recommendation that is given. Now this recommendation will be, this is a proposal, it is not yet finalized. This proposal will be published. Okay, it will be published in an official gazette, so that people get to know that the minimum wages is getting revised. And the proposal, it will be 2 months will be given. Yarkaga objections or they have suggestions, they can write within 2 months. Post 2 months, a date will be defined in the proposal itself. So that will be within 2 months. So 2 months and a particular date, we will take up the proposal. The government will take up the proposal and the suggestions or objections. Okay, and 3 months from the date of this notification, this wages that has been proposed will become effective. So after taking any suggestions, if they feel that there should be any particular change, they will make those changes and notify it within 1 month time. So 3 months from the date of issue of the notification, the wages, minimum wages that has been decided, that has been proposed, will become effective. Clear? So first, appropriate government set up committee. Committee will propose. Proposal will be published. 2 months time for any suggestions. 3 months time from the date of issue for implementation of the minimum wages. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
This is also very important, minimum wages. Who will fix and how it has to be fixed. Okay? So this committee la yaarla irupanga. Committee will have representatives of employers, it will have representative of employee and independent person not exceeding one third of the total member of the committee. So one third will be representing employee, one third will be representing employer, and one third will be the independent persons. Time limits to revise and review the minimum wages. Minimum 5 years. At least 5 years once we have to revise and review the minimum wages. Most governments will do before 5 years also. 3 to 5 years there will be a revision. And how is the minimum wages fixed? It can be fixed for on time rate basis or on piecework basis. So generally, it will be fixed on time basis only because piecework government it will be difficult for the government to fix. So they will fix minimum rate based on hours, day, and month. Then based on skilled, unskilled, and semi-skilled. So in the Madhuri airport. Minimum wages, hour, days, month. Okay. For skilled, semi-skilled, and unskilled. Because some factories pay on hourly basis, some factory based on daily basis, some factory pays on monthly basis. So they can refer to these to the minimum wages chart and accordingly ensure that the wages that they are paying is not less than the minimum wages. So appropriate government, it will fix the wages as skilled, semi-skilled, and unskilled. Consider arduous work like temperature and humidity, hazardous occupation and processes. So if there is any hazardous occupation, high altitude work, அந்த மாதிரி இருக்குன்னா separate wage structure will be determined. So skilled, semi-skilled and unskilled இல்லாம if it involves any kind of hazardous work, a separate wage structure will be determined for those types of work. Next we have what is the power of central government. The state government the minimum wages fix பண்றாங்க for most of the categories of the industrial sector, service sector except for mines, oil fields and railway. Now central government has the power to fix a floor wages. Floor wages based in after taking into consideration the geographical area and the minimum standard of living of the workers, a floor wages will be fixed. Okay, minimum standard of living பார்த்து ஒரு basic wages for entire country based on the geographical areas. Minimum wages that is set by the state government should not be less than the floor wages that is fixed. If the minimum wages fixed by state government is less than the central government's floor wages, they need to increase their minimum wages to match to the floor wages. If the minimum wages set by the state government is higher than the floor wages, they should continue as such. Okay? That is the concept of floor wages by central government. This is an additional check. State government has power and authority to fix wages. Central government is doing a check by fixing a floor wages, ensuring that the minimum wages paid by the fixed by the state government does not fall below the floor wages of the central government. Then next we have section 10. So how இப்போ நம்ம minimum wages எப்படி fix பண்ணோம்? Minimum wages we are fixing on hourly basis, we are fixing on daily basis, monthly basis எல்லாம். What if a person is working on a daily wager, okay, daily wager. He came for work during the day. Half a day he worked. Okay, so this Mr. A, he comes for work, half a day he is working. After that, there was a breakdown of plant and machinery. Okay, so second half he could not work. He stayed till 4 o'clock and then he left. Now, can he be paid full day's wages, or he will be paid only half day's wages? What do you think? What should the employer do? Should he pay a full day's wage to this person or a half day's wage?
Full day's wages.
Full day's wages, yes. Because this particular action was not because of a fault of his. So he should be entitled for full day's wages. Half day's wage will be paid if the machinery was working, but half a day he worked and then he had a quarrel, he had a fight with other workers and then he just left. Then will he be paid full day's wages or half day's wages?
Half day's wages.
Then he'll be paid half day's wages. So if there is a failure on his part because of his unwillingness to work or because of an omission, an error, a mistake on his side, he will be given half day's wages. Otherwise, he'll be entitled to full day's wages. Procedure to be followed before fixing the floor wages. Before fixing floor wages, the central government they don't have the expertise, so they will always depend on a committee. So central government also, before fixing the floor wages, it has to obtain advice from the central advisory committee. Here in case of state, it was the state advisory committee. In central, they have to get the information, they have to get the advice from the central advisory committee and the state government. Because once they fix the floor wages, it is applicable to all the states. So they need to take into consideration the geographical specifications of each state before they fix the floor wages for all the states. So they have to get concurrence from the state government and also consult the central advisory board before they fix the floor wages. Then, where minimum rate of wages are fixed, government will also fix. It's not the minimum rate. நம்ம வந்து hourly rates இதை மட்டும் fix பண்ணினா, again there will be some exploitation. Okay, if I say that daily wages is 500 rupees, daily 500 na, The employer can require the skilled laborer to come on all days, come and work on all days. Or if I say that monthly wages is 15,000. Now in the monthly 15,000 la 30 days இருக்கு. ஒரு monthல 30 days இருக்கு. That does that mean that 50,000 will be paid only if he works on all 30 days? No. There should be rest allowed, right? So every 7 days க்கு 1 day rest, Sunday rest. So minimum wages are fixed after taking into consideration 6 days up to Saturday working. So 7 days க்கு ஒரு நாள் rest. And if the person works overtime, then he should be given an overtime wages. So what is the, overtime? We need to define what is the normal working hours. Then only he will be entitled for overtime. Otherwise, as per minimum wages, if it is 500 per hour, the employer will pay only 500 per hour. You work for 7 hours, 9 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours, you will be given only 500 per hour. So while fixing the minimum rate of wages, the appropriate government will also fix what is the normal working hours, what is the normal working days, number of working days in a month, what is the normal working hours in a day, including the rest period. Normal working hours, if we say 9 hours, 9 hours the work panano, 1 hour you have gone for lunch break, so we will not give you the pay for 1 hour. The employer cannot say that. So the normal working hours will be fixed by the appropriate government, including the breaks and rest periods. And monthly number of days in a month, again it will be fixed by the appropriate government after taking into account the number of rest periods. Okay, and for the overtime hours or overtime days that the employee works, he will be entitled for a wage which is twice the normal wage rate. So your overtime wages is double your normal wages. Okay, so this is also fixed under minimum wages. It is not just fixation of minimum wages, but also fixing the normal working hours in a day and number of days in a month. And overtime rate will be paid if an employee is required to work more than the specified number of hours in a day and specified number of days in a month. This overtime and fixation of number of hours will not apply to certain category of employees. That is, employees whose employment is intermittent, employees who are engaged in work which could not be carried on except at times dependent on irregular action of natural forces, employees who are engaged in any work for technical reasons that has to be completed before the duty is over, employees who are engaged in emergency works. Okay, so for these people, the number of hours applicability will not work. Like doctors employed in a hospital, you cannot fix specific number of hours. Even though you fix an hours, if there is an emergency, the doctor will have to be there and he or she has to conduct that surgery. So their timings, their work hours are not fixed. So we cannot fix a specific work hour in case the employees who are in employment are intermittent. They are very important and they work in cases where there is emergency involved. Employees who are engaged in work which could not be carried on except at times dependent on the irregular action of natural forces. So nature dependent works. So in that case, seasonal factories, in that case you cannot fix the normal work hours, because seasonal factories, in one season there will be a lot of work, in the other 6 months there will be no work. So we cannot fix normal working hours in these kind of sectors. Next is overtime. Wages for overtime. So overtime, we will be paid twice the normal wages. If he works on a day in excess of the time that is prescribed, for every hour or part thereof for the excess hours work, you will be given an overtime wages. Mode of payment. You can pay wages in cash or by way of check or NEFT. Okay. If the appropriate government specifies that a particular establishment or industry should pay only by check or by way of NEFT, then they have to abide with that. So cash payment of wages is allowed provided government doesn't interfere. Some factories, some industries, there is money laundering, black money. You'll be making a lot of sales in black. You will get cash, and the cash unaccounted are, and the unaccounted cash you will pay. You use for paying wages. So, Abdi, you are completely taking out a portion of your sales out of the tax rate. You're not showing it in GST. You're not showing it in income tax. So, completely gone out of the tax net. So, அந்த மாதிரி specific industries the government will state that wages should be paid only through net banking or check, only through bank. So there you cannot use the cash. So money laundering can be stopped to a certain extent. So if it is not specified, you can pay wages by cash also. Fixation of wage period and what is the time limit for payment of wages. Wage period we can pay on hourly basis, we can pay on daily basis, we can pay on monthly basis also. Not beyond monthly basis. 2 months once you cannot pay salary or wages. You have to pay at least once in a month. Okay. So the condition is that no wage period shall be more than a month. It can be daily, weekly, fortnightly. Daily basis you can pay weekly basis, you can pay fortnightly, 2 weeks once, or on a monthly basis, but not beyond 1 month. And the time limit by which you have to pay. If a daily wages in the naal mudiyum bodu you have to pay the wages, right? Weekly wages end of the week you have to pay the wages. Fortnightly wages 2 weeks once. So 2 days from the end of the fortnight you'll have to pay the wages. Monthly wages 7 days from the end of the month. Adukulla you have to pay the wages. So daily wages it will be paid at the end of the shift. So on the shift end when the employees leave, you have to pay the wages. Weekly basis the last working day of the week. So Monday to Saturday you have to pay the wages. Fortnightly basis the 2 weeks once. So 2 days before the end of the second day. So 2 days after the end of the fortnight. So first lane the 14th varikku, you need to pay by 16th. 2 days from the end of the fortnight. Monthly basis 30 days. So 30 days the 30th of the month, the 30th or 31st, that is the last working day of the month, the wages becomes due. But again we get 7 days time. 7th of the next month we have to pay the wages. This is a time limit for payment of wages. If a person is resigning or he is retiring, within 2 days from the date of his removal, dismissal, retrenchment or resignation, retirement as the case may be, 2 days, we'll have to pay whatever is his due. Notwithstanding anything under subsection 1 and section 2, appropriate government may provide any other time limit for payment of wages or shall effect any time limit for payment of wages. So, notwithstanding this is subsection 1, this is subsection 2. Notwithstanding anything in 1 and 2, appropriate government for a specific industry, they might state a separate payment schedule. If a separate payment schedule is been given, then you have to follow that payment schedule. Okay. So நம்ம என்னெல்லாம் பார்த்தோம், wages என்னது பார்த்தோம், minimum wages என்னது பார்த்தோம், minimum wages என்னெல்லாம் categoriesல இருக்கும், who sets minimum wages, what is the procedure of setting minimum wages, and what is the different time duration at which the wages will have to be paid, and a time limit for payment of wages. Okay, and what is included in wages, what is not included in wages, how the wages will have to be paid. Next, what are the deductions from wages? Now we have arrived at the wages. Minimum wages இவ்வளோ pay பண்ணோம், monthly pay பண்ணுறோம். இதுதான் நம்மளோட wages that has to be paid. Basic plus DA plus cost of living allowance plus a cash value of food concessions. So this is what we are going to pay. Now there can be certain deductions that can be made from wages. Similar type of deductions நம்ம பண்ணுவோம். Any payment made by an employee to the employer or his agent. Okay, any payment made by the employee to the employer, that will be reduced from the wages. Any loss of wages to an employee for a good and sufficient cause resulting from withholding his promotion, including stoppage of increment, reduction to a lower post, suspension, shall not be deemed to be a deduction from wages. So when there is when this particular person, this employee has not worked properly and he has been suspended or he has been depromoted, that is not a reduction in wages. That is an action, that is disciplinary action taken against him, and that will not be considered as a deduction from wages. Okay, this is one point you should note. Second one, deductions will be in the nature of fine and penalty that is imposed. Deduction for absence of duty, loss of pay, அப்படின்னா will reduce. Deduction for house accommodation. Again, in case of government sector, you will be given quarters, rent-free accommodation. அதுக்கு ஒரு small portion, a minimum rent will be reduced. So that will be a deduction from wages. If there is any damage to the goods or damage to the machinery that happened because on his own account, then there will be a deduction for that. Deduction for any other amenities that is provided by the employer, PF, pension, as per the statute, if there is any deduction to be made, that will be made. Income tax, as per statute, we will have to reduce from wages. Trade unions, if he is part of the trade unions, the trade unions fee will be reduced from the wages. Cooperative societies, it will be reduced from the wages. Any failure of the employee to bill and invoice and collect appropriate charges for due to railway administration, the railway related, it will be reduced from wages. Okay, these are the normal deductions from wages. Other than a disciplinary action, all the other deductions will be considered as a deduction from wages. The total deduction during a wage period shall not exceed 50% of the wages to be paid in the month. Okay, that is a mandatory clause that you have to note. Total deductions shall not be greater than 50% of the wages. Okay, I'll note here. Okay, total deductions shall not be greater than 50% of wages during the wage period. Then for PF and other statutory levies, or PF, pension, which has been deducted by the employer. So நம்ம PF என்ன பார்த்தோம், PF ல வந்து 10% will be contributed by the employee and by the employer. So in the contribution we are not doing directly. The employee does not do it directly. The employer deducts this amount from the salary of the employee, and the employer will deposit it into the PF account of the employee. Both அவரோட கான்ட்ரிபியூஷனும் எம்ப்ளாயோட கான்ட்ரிபியூஷனும் சேர்த்து டெபாசிட் பண்ணுவாங்க. Now, what if the employer fails to do this activity? He is deducting from you, but he is not depositing it to the government. Is that your fault? Is that the employee's fault? What do you think?
No, no, no. It's not employees.
It's not the employee's fault. So the employee cannot be held for any non-deposit of amount with the government. If there is any interest or penalty because of this, it will be borne by the employer. Okay, இப்போ எம்ப்ளாயி கிட்ட இருந்து இன்கம் டாக்ஸ் டிடிஎஸ் டிடக்ட் பண்ணுவாங்க. எவ்ரி மந்த் when the salary is being paid, income tax deduct ஆகும். This has to be deposited with the government. If there is a delay in the deposit, the employer will have to pay the interest. Okay, next we come to fine. நம்ம சொன்னோம் இங்க இதுல இருக்கு fines imposed on him will be a deduction. Now, what are the different kind of fines that can be imposed on an employee, and what is the maximum fine that can be imposed as per Code of Wages Act? No fine can be imposed by an employee save in respect of those acts and omission on his part as the employer with the previous approval of the central government. So if there is any, no fine can be imposed on an employee with respect to the omissions on the part of the employer. If the employer has made any omissions or any errors, then he cannot impose any fine on the employee unless with the previous approval of the central government that the employee was also involved in this particular act of omission. So where the employer is also responsible for any act or omission, he has to get the permission of central government to impose a fine on the employee. Okay, no fine shall be imposed on the employee unless the employee is given an opportunity of being heard. This is also very important. And every mistake that is conducted, an opportunity of being heard will always be given. And the amount of fine is restricted to 3% of the wages payable to him. The amount of fine that is imposed in any one wage period should not exceed 3% of the wages payable to him. So total deductions 50%. Adala fine should not exceed 3%. Or wage period like you can charge a fine only up to 3% of the wages. You cannot impose a fine beyond 90 days or on installment basis. Ella maso fine vanda I'll put a fine of 10,000 and every month I will deduct 100 rupees. That you cannot do. Okay, abdina you will cross that 3% limit. So the fine is limited to 3% during a wage period. You cannot collect fine in installments. You have to collect the fine in one go. So your fine is limited to 1%, 3% only, because 3% one wage period, and there is no provision of collecting fine on installment basis. Fine has to be collected within 90 days from the date of imposition. You cannot defer the collection of fine to later on period. If a fine imposed பண்ணிருக்காங்களோ immediate basis you have to collect, that is within 90 days or 3 months. 3 months the fine should have been recovered from the wages of the employee. Beyond that, if it goes, you cannot recover. Okay, for adolescent workers, that is workers under the age of 15, no fine shall be imposed. Every fine shall be deemed to have been imposed on the day when the act or omission took place. All fines and realizations, there has to be a separate register that should be maintained by the employer. This fine has been deducted from X and Y, and this is the reason for the deduction. This is the act or omission that has been committed. Okay, so fine is limited to 3% during a wage period. Fine has to be collected within 90 days. It cannot be collected in installments. Separate register will have to be maintained, and if the employee is less than 15 years of age, no fine can be collected. So next is bonus. Break edupoma. We have completed the first part of Code of Wages Act. What is wages? Wages are included, what are excluded in wages, and what is the time limit, what is minimum wages, what is the time limit for payment of wages, and what are the deductions that is to be made from the wages. So next we will go to bonus. We will take a break and then go to bonus. இதை நீங்க பார்த்ததுன்னா இது எல்லாத்தையும் சேர்த்து தான் வருது. First payment of wages act இருக்கு. இந்த கோட் ஆஃப் வேஜஸ்ல நம்ம என்ன பார்க்குறோம், வாட் இஸ் வேஜஸ், வாட் இஸ் இன்க்ளூடட், வாட் இஸ் எக்ஸ்க்ளூடட், அதுதான் இந்த பேமெண்ட் ஆஃப் வேஜஸ் ஆக்ட். Minimum Wages Act 1948. அதில் இப்போ நம்ம பார்த்ததுல we have finished all that. What is the minimum wages? What is the time limit? Who fixes the minimum wages? When it will be revised? So these provisions are covered under Minimum Wages Act. So next one we have uh, Payment of Bonus Act and Equal Remuneration Act. Okay. So next we come to bonus. Okay, so bonus we saw in the initial definition itself. Bonus is not part of your wages. Minimum wages calculation la bonus does not play a role. Okay, so bonus is minimum bonus that has to be paid is 8.33% of the wages, and the maximum bonus is limited to 20% of wages. Okay, minimum is 8.33% or 100 rupees, and the maximum is 20% of wages. Who is eligible for wages? Every employee who has worked for a minimum of 30 days during the last year. So minimum he should have worked for 30 days during the last year. Then every employee who is drawing wages not exceeding a certain limit, which will be fixed by the government from time to time. Okay, not exceeding the limit per mensem. Mensem means monthly wages. So not exceeding a particular monthly wage limit, they will be as notified by the appropriate government. So if notify பண்ணிருக்கிறது, it is 15,000 is the wage limit for all the cases. PF pension இருந்தாலும் 15,000. Every employee who has worked at least for 30 days drawing wages not exceeding the limit specified by the appropriate government will be eligible for bonus under Code of Wages Act. Wages is and bonus is limited to 8.33% of wages earned or 100 rupees, whichever is higher. So assume if a person's wage is only like 1,000 rupees, and he has worked for 30 days and his wages is coming to 1,000 or 2,000 rupees. If the 2,000 rupees or 8% pata, it is 160. So he will be paid 160 rupees. If the person is working for 100 for 1,000 rupees, 8.33% of the wages is 83 rupees. So in that case, he will be paid 100 rupees. So 8.33% of wage earned or 100 rupees, whichever is higher, will be the bonus that will be paid. If the wages of the employee exceeds the amount per mensem, so if the threshold limit 15,000, so 15,000 ka mela poidthana, then what will be the bonus? Okay, then the bonus will be calculated as per the minimum wages that is fixed by the appropriate government, or as per the per mensem wages that will be prescribed by the appropriate government. Okay, either minimum wages சொல்லுவாங்க இல்ல minimum wages so if your wages is greater than 15,000, then it will be taken as 20,000 for the purpose of your bonus calculation. Abdina, if the government has having sending out a notification, then for any wages beyond 15,000, we will take the basis to be 20,000 and accordingly calculate. Okay, so if the minimum wages is as per the prescribed limit, if the wages is given as per the prescribed limit of the government, and the employee has worked for 30 days during the last year accounting year, then 8.33% or 100 rupees, whichever is higher, will be given as bonus. 8.33 of the wages earned. In case if the wages that is being paid is higher than the amount that is set by the government, then minimum wages will be taken. 8.33% of minimum wages or 8.33% of certain amount that is fixed by the appropriate government. That will be taken as a bonus. Okay. Bonus will be calculated on the basis of the amount determined by the appropriate government or minimum wages, whichever is higher. Adoda 8.33%. Okay. Then, what is the maximum amount? Minimum amount is 8.33 or 100 rupees. What is the maximum amount? A maximum amount is limited to 20% of the wages. Okay. So 20% is your maximum amount. Minimum is 8.33 or 100 rupees. Now, how is bonus being paid? Okay. இப்போ நம்ம வந்து 20% we need to pay bonus. இதுக்கு முன்னாடி we will come to இது பார்க்கலாம். Okay. So bonus will be paid based on this 20% and it will be paid out of your allocatable surplus. Surplus இருந்தாலே நம்ம bonus pay பண்ணணும். So surplus when we are paying bonus, if a surplus 100% இருக்குன்னா, the 100% cannot be distributed as bonus. There is a limit on the portion of percentage of surplus that can be distributed as bonus. The limit is 67% in case of any industry. In case of banking sector, it is 60. Okay, 60% for banking and 67% of the surplus can be distributed as bonus for others. இப்போ இந்த 67% நம்ம distribute பண்ணும்போது we have to ensure that to a person the bonus that is given is not greater than 20% of the wages earned. Okay, ஒருத்தருக்கு 20% அவரோட wages ஓட 20% வரைக்கும் தான் we can give bonus. So இந்த 67% distribute பண்ணும்போது so our pool is 100 rupees na, and the 100 rupees is 67 rupees we are going to distribute. The 67 rupees we should distribute such that to one person it is not greater than 20% of the wages earned. Okay, so நம்ம இந்த 20% limit வச்சு எல்லாருக்கும் கொடுத்த அப்புறம் we are able to give only 60 rupees. Okay, 100 rupees இருக்கு, 67 can be given as bonus. நம்ம இந்த limit ceiling limit இருக்கிறதுனால we are limiting it to 20% for each person. So அப்படி நம்ம distribute பண்ணும்போது we could distribute only 60 rupees. So we have an excess 7 rupees. This can be carried forward to next year. Okay, next year we can carry this bonus forward. Next year when we are paying we can include. So if in one year there is a surplus and another year there is a deficit, this surplus over and above this 20% will get adjusted in the next year's deficit. Okay, so payment of bonus, 67% of your surplus can be taken as bonus. And when you are calculating surplus how to calculate the surplus? When we calculate surplus we have to take gross profit. Okay, gross profit, it will be computed in a manner that is determined by the central government. From the gross profit, when we are taking what is the allocatable surplus from gross profit lende depreciation, direct tax and any other sum that is prescribed by government, இது மூணையும் reduce பண்ணினா you get the allocatable surplus. So it is not that we go with the financials இருக்கிற net profit எடுத்து distribute பண்றோம் இல்ல. We need to take gross profit, trading profit lende we have to reduce depreciation. We need to reduce direct tax la current year's direct tax only will be reduced. Previous year's arrears will not be reduced. While taking into consideration depreciation, current year depreciation only will be reduced. Areas of depreciation that is getting carried forward in our financial records will not be reduced. Ellame current year odu. Okay, so current year's gross profit minus current year depreciation minus current year direct tax minus any other sum that is prescribed by the central government, that will give us the allocatable surplus. Audited accounts are not questioned generally. Okay, and whatever is the amount that is mentioned in the audited accounts as gross profit will be taken unless the appropriate government has certain doubts. Okay, if there is a certain doubts, then they will take up for further investigation. Okay, there. Now we'll come to this types of bonus payment. First 5 years, okay, of the business being established, bonus need to be paid only with respect to the profits earned in the accounting year. Okay, in the first 5 accounting year following the accounting year in which he sells goods and services, that is the first 4 years. 5 years following the year. So first four accounting years, as may be from such establishments, bonus shall be payable only in respect of the accounting year in which it derives profit. So the first 5 accounting years, you need to pay bonus only if there is a profit. If there is a loss, you need not pay bonus. So only out of the profits, only out of profitable years, you need to pay bonus in the first 5 years. Okay, for the sixth and seventh year following the accounting year in which the employer sells goods and services, as the case may be made from such establishment, subject to certain following conditions. Sixth year, set on and set off made in a manner specified by central government, taking into account the excess of allocatable surplus on set off or set on in respect to fifth and sixth year. Seventh year we will take for 3 years. That will be fifth, sixth, and seventh. So first 5 years, bonus will be paid only if there is a profit. There is no carry forward. Okay, from the sixth year onwards, you get, if there is a loss, you will carry forward the minimum bonus that is to be paid to the next year, and when in the next year you will pay both together. இப்போ 6th இயரில் எனக்கு லாஸ், ஸோ என்னால் பே பண்ண முடியல, minimum 8.33%. So what I will do, I will carry this forward to the next year. 7th year I have an excess surplus. So 67% எடுத்ததுனா I will be able to pay more than 20%. So what I will do, போன year ஒரு 8.33யும் இந்த year ஒரு 20% சேர்த்து I will be paying 28.33%. I can carry it forward for further set off. Now, in the 5th year, I have a profit, excess profit. I can pay around 30% bonus, but my limit is 20%. I can pay only 20%. So 20% I am paying. Balance இருக்கும் எனக்கு 67% I am allocated to bonus. So 67% I have not completely utilized because there is a ceiling limit of 20%. So I have about 20% of the bonus that is still pending. There is excess surplus that is available with me. I can carry it forward to the next year. Carry it forward to the 6th year. So 6th year ஏதாவது deficiency இருந்தது, loss இருந்ததுனாலும் I'll be able to pay the bonus using the surplus that I have carried forward from the previous year. Okay. So from 6th year onwards, you can carry forward, you can set off and set on the surplus and then use for bonus payment. Up to 5 years, you pay bonus only when there is a profit. Okay, clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Proportionate reduction in bonus. So proportionate reduction in bonus, it happens when there is when he is a sick loss of pay போயிருக்காருன்னா அந்த loss of pay daysக்கு you will not be given bonus. So when he is not worked for all days, minimum 30 days work பண்ணா he is eligible, but how much bonus he will be paid for the accounting year? Not for the full days, for the days he has worked. So for the days he has not worked, there will be a reduction, proportionate reduction in the bonus. So an employee has not worked for all days in the accounting year, the minimum bonus that is payable under section 226(1) or if such higher bonus is payable higher than 8.33 percentage, it will be proportionately reduced. Then calculation of number of working days for payment of bonus. When you calculate the number of working days, you will the maternity leave, uh, permissible leave, like 12 days of casual leave is permissible, paid sick leaves are permissible. So either we will calculate in the working days. Only loss of pay will be taken out. It will be considered as non-working days. Leave with salary or wages, or the sick leave with salary or wages. When he has been laid off as part of the agreement, seasonal workers, they are laid off for 6 months, they are employed for 6 months. So as part of the agreement, he is getting laid off. So that will also be considered as a normal working day. Then maternity leave, leave with salary rado, it will be considered as a normal working day. When he is absent due to a temporary disablement caused by an accident in the premises. So in the factory, he was working and there was a small accident because of which he took a sick leave. Even though it is on loss of pay, it will be considered to be a normal working day. Okay, so leave on account of accidents, on account of maternity, leave with salary, and when he's laid off as part of the standing orders, it will be deemed to be a working day, and it will be included in calculation of number of days for bonus payment. Disqualification: when a person will not be entitled for bonus when he has done some fraud or some conviction of sexual harassment, some violent behavior, dismissed on account of disciplinary actions. Okay, when there is a sabotage of property, misappropriation, so any kind of malfunctioning that has been done by or malpractice, if the employee has done, then he will not be entitled for bonus. An employee shall be disqualified under the code if he is dismissed from service for fraud, violent behavior, theft, misappropriation, conviction for sexual harassment. So these are the four cases when he will be disqualified from bonus. Allocatable surplus, I will pass it on. Bonus, how it will be paid? It will be paid through a banking system only. Through bank, it will be credited to the bank account within 8 months from the end of the accounting year. So time limit for payment of bonus is 8 months from the end of the accounting year. This is accounting year. Okay, financial year or accounting year is being considered. Any dispute with respect to payment of bonus, whether it is non-payment of bonus or short payment of bonus, or with respect to allocatable surplus, if the employee feels that 67% of the allocatable surplus is not being distributed as bonus, they are taking only 60% and distributing that as bonus. If there is some kind of dispute between the employer and the employee, within 1 month from the date the bonus becomes due, you can go for a appeal. Okay, this entire bonus payment of bonus provisions are not applicable for employees under LIC, Seamen as defined under Seamen Act, for any by an establishment under the authority and department of government, Indian Red Cross Society, universities, educational institutions including hospitals, chamber of commerce, social welfare schemes, employees who are employed by RBI, PSUs, financial institutions other than banking company, because banking company it is applicable, inland water establishment, any establishment that is notified by the government. For these establishment, application of bonus act will not apply. This bonus provisions will not apply because they are governed by separate acts. LIC ki separate act irukku. Siemens have a separate act, and government departments, they are governed by their own provisions. Educational institutions, hospitals, they are in the form of trust. Mostly they will be in the form of trust, and they are governed by their own rules and regulations, because நம்ம வந்து minimum wages act hospitals to a certain extent we cannot apply. We can apply to the normal ward boys in the hospitals who have fixed working hours. We cannot apply to doctors or nurses who they don't have a fixed working hours. Nurses also to a certain extent they have fixed working hours, but not to doctors, because they cannot have a fixed working hours. They are working under emergency uh, uh, kind of important work. So educational institutions, again universities and educational institutions, they are governed by UGC rules. So UGC rules la UGC oda provisions enna applicable agumo adha it will apply. Then RBI, separate law is there, separate act is there, so that will apply. Public sector institutions are governed by central government and hence or state government. So state government and central government's provisions will apply. So Code of Wages Act will not apply in this case. Inland water sports, water transport establishment, again they have a separate act governing their provisions and hence they'll be covered by that act. Public sector undertakings will be governed by this bonus provisions if they are competing with any other private organization. If they are in a profit making uh, mechanism, their main aim is to make profit. Generally, PSUs are to serve the employee, they serve the public. But if they are selling goods or services in competition with an establishment in private sector with a profit motive, then these provisions will apply. The provisions of Bonus Act will apply. Then நம்ம வந்து advisory board பத்தி பார்த்தோம். Central advisory board will be formed to help the central government decide on fixing of floor wages, fixing, and the state advisory board's aim is to help the state government fix the minimum wages. They also have other objectives like improving the employment opportunities of women. So these advisory boards, state and central advisory boards, they respectively they advise the central government and state government for fixation of wages, for revision of minimum wages, for increasing employment opportunities, for encouraging women, extent to which the women may be in an establishment. So that is encouraging the women employment and increasing general employment opportunities in the particular state or center. They have people, one third of the people representing the independent persons, one third will be representing employee, one third will be representing employer. Okay, and what are their main aim? Fixing of minimum wages, revision of minimum wages, increasing the job opportunities for women, increasing the presence of women, okay, in different establishments, and any other matter where the government requires an advice with respect to fixing of wages or bonus or any matter that is governed under Code of Wages Act 2019. Now, in case of death of an employee, so where in case of death of a employee, to whom will the amount be paid? So the amount that is due to this employee, bonus irkalam, wages irkalam, both will be paid to the nominee. If there is no nominee or if there is some dispute because of which we are not able to pay the amount to the nominee, then the amount will be deposited to the authority as may be prescribed. Authority is your state or central government, and then once the dispute is resorted, then the nominee can apply for the payment and the amount will be paid. Okay, so it will be paid to the nominee, and if there is no nominee or if there is a dispute, the amount will be deposited with the appropriate authority. Next is claim under Code of Wages. So, disputes or no dispute under bonus related disputes now 1 month you have to initiate it with the employer. And if the employer is not abiding, the appropriate government has appointed more than one authorities to deal with these disputes. Labor codes. They have defined labor codes, different labor codes at district level, at state level, who will deal with the disputes with respect to uh, Code of Wages Act. Okay, so these authorities are not below the rank of a gazetted officer, and the authority can decide the claim having regard to the circumstances under which the claim arises. So, in the authority, your main aim is to solve the disputes. So, once a case is filed with these authorities, they will settle the claims between the employer and the employee. And if the employer has not acted properly, they have not deposited the money with the government, இப்போ பிஎஃப் பென்ஷன்லாம் இருக்குது அதை டெபாசிட் பண்ணல, போனஸ் கொடுக்கல ரெகுலராக அப்படின்னா they can even put a compensation, or there is an accident that has happened in the premises which has not been compensated by the employer. In all these cases, the payment of compensation determined, which may extend to 10 times the claim. Okay, so the decisions that is taken by the authority and the payment of compensation can be 10 times the claim, and that is the threshold limit of the decisions that can be taken by this authority. They can settle the claims, and they can require the employer to pay a compensation to the employee which is not exceeding 10 times the value of claim. Okay, and any claim under Code of Wages Act which has been raised to the authority will have to be decided within 3 months. Okay, so it has to be decided within 3 months. 3 months kulla decision koduthu claim settle pananum. 3 months la claim settle panla. If the employer does not settle the claim within 3 months, this authority has the power to recover the amount as by the collector or the district magistrate. So areas of land revenue, or land revenue நம்ம pay பண்ணல, property tax pay பண்ணலனா நம்ம collector of that particular district or the district magistrate will have the right to attach the property and recover the money. Okay, so the same power is given in case of Code of Wages also. The claim, if the authority has decided the claim to be paid by the employer to the employee, and the employer does not pay this claim within 3 months, then the collector can attach the property and recover the money by way of arrears of land revenue. Just like arrear of land revenue, they can attach the property and they can recover the money and settle this claim. So, what all disputes can arise between the employer and the employee, that will be raised to this authority. There can be disputes on payment of bonus, fixation of bonus, eligibility for payment of bonus, whether this code is applicable or not. Okay, and in respect of wages, minimum wages, what is wages, whether a particular allowance has to be included in wages or not. To an establishment in public sector, if they are competing with private establishment, if they have a profit motive, then this particular code applies to a public sector. Okay, so in all these cases, it is an industrial dispute. All these disputes are considered to be as an industrial dispute. That is why it is being referred to the authority for settlement. Then when the authority takes up this particular any claim for settlement purpose, they will assume that the balance sheet which has been audited is accurate. If they have any doubts, they have the right to do further investigation. Okay, and the fees, and if it is not audited, they can require the books to be audited also. Because நம்ம gross profitல arrive பண்றது books of accounts இருந்து audit ஆலனா, then the employer can do anything. So if it is not audited, he can require an audit to be conducted, and the fees for the audit will be collected from the employer. If it is audited and if the authority feels that it is appropriate, then they will go ahead with the details in the financials. But if they feel that there is some mistake or there is some malpractice that has happened, then they may require a further audit to be conducted, further investigation to be conducted, and the fees will be borne by the employer. A person who is aggrieved by the decision of this authority can appeal, go for an appeal to the appellate tribunal. Appellate tribunal again 90 days. Okay, 90 days you need to go. So 90 days 90 days or 3 months decision has to be taken and the settlement has to be made. If you are aggrieved by the decision, you can go for an appeal within 90 days. Compliance of records, returns and notices. So every employer has to maintain a record of the employees working in the company, and they have to provide necessary wage slips to the employees. When the wages are being paid, wage slip or a salary slip should always be paid. And every employer on the notice board, they should publish the abstract of this code so that the employees are aware of their eligibility. They should provide category wise what is the rate of wages, what is the minimum wages, what is the wage period. All these details need to be provided, and also the name and address of the inspector having jurisdiction again in that establishment. So there are labor officers, labor inspectors under this Code of Wages Act, and same under Factories Act, Code of Wages Act, ellame state wise they will have inspectors. The inspectors will go and inspect the establishment and see if the provisions are properly established. And if there is any complaint against the employer, employee can raise a complaint with this inspector. So the inspector's name, address and phone number should be mentioned in the notice board. Okay, so they have to maintain a register of employees, they have to issue slips, pay slips, and they have to publish the abstract of the Code of Wages Act, their rights, the rights of and liabilities of the employees and employer, along with the name, address and phone number of the inspector. Now, what are the powers of the inspector? Inspector-cum-Facilitator. Appointment on the appropriate government, that is the state government or central government, may appoint inspectors by a notification in that particular state. They will for that particular state and district level they will appoint inspectors. Okay, and the inspector from cum facilitator is considered to be a public servant, and he is having all the rights and liabilities of a public servant. Powers of the inspector: he may advise to the employer and the workers relating to the compliance of the code. So at regular intervals, he has to give awareness programs to the establishment so that the employers as well as the workers are aware of their duties and their rights under Code of Wages Act. Inspect the establishments. They have the right to inspect the establishments under their jurisdiction to see if the provisions are properly followed. They have the right to require any person to give any information which in his powers to give with respect to the name and address of the person. So if he finds some, if he has doubts about the a particular establishment, he has the right to examine the premises. He has the right to question people and ask for information. He has the right to seize and take copies of registers, records of wages, notices, okay, and other relevant documents. So he has a right to seize the documents which are pertaining to Code of Wages Act, which are pertaining to the wages workers. He can bring to the notice of the appropriate government the defects and abuses not covered by any law, and exercise such other powers. So he can examine the premises, he can collect evidences, he can call for information, and he can also uprise the central government or the state government if he finds that there is certain exploitation by the employer of the employees and workers which is not covered under this act. Okay, because they are the ones who are actually seeing the establishment, seeing how the workers are being treated. So if they find that there is a loophole in the code of wages act, they can refer for certain amendments or suggestions as well. So these are the duties of and powers of an inspector and facilitator. This is important exam perspective la. It is important. Powers of inspector under all industrial act is important. You need to know. Penalty if under section 54, it is a fine of 50,000, and if there is any offense that requires an imprisonment, there is a 3 months imprisonment or 1 lakh fine or both. Okay. So first case, you have to pay a fine of 50,000. In second case, there is an imprisonment of 3 months and a fine of 1 lakh. This is penalty for the employer. If he contravenes any of the provisions, fine of 20,000. Having been committed of an offence under clause C is again found guilty. So similar offence. First time ku 20,000. Second time adhe offence panna 40,000 and imprisonment of 1 month. இதில் வந்து first time 50,000. If the employee, if he does not pay bonus to the employee, anything against the employee, 50,000 is the fine. Second time same offense panna 3 months imprisonment and 1 lakh fine. Okay, this is with respect to penalty. Penalty is not very important, so I'm not going deep into this. Okay. An employer can come out of his penalty provisions if he is able to prove that the employer did not do this particular act of omission. It was done by some other person, maybe some other his staff, and if he is able to bring that staff, prove that he is the one who has done this malpractice and not the employer, then the proceedings will be initiated against such other person and not against the employer. Okay, that is the only way an employer can come out of his offense or a charge that is taken up by the inspector or the authority. Then there are few provisions like இப்போ வந்து ஒரு எம்ப்ளாயி நான் bonus is not paid அப்படின்னு ஒரு claim raise பண்ணாருன்னா, it is the employer's responsibility to prove that he has paid bonus. Okay, the burden of proof is always on the employer in all the industrial acts. The industrial acts ellame the employee is considered to be very innocent, and the burden of proving it wrong is always on the employer. That is, I think we have covered almost all the important aspects. So இது வந்து it's a very simple act. மேலா நீங்க அந்த ஒரு ஃப்ளோல you have to just understand what is wages, what is included, what is excluded in wages, who is the one who has the authority of fixing minimum wages, how is minimum wages fixed, okay, what is the time limit of paying wages, time limit of paying wages, who has and how the wages has to be paid in cash or by bank, what are the permissible deductions under wages, fine, okay, what is the limit of fine that can be deducted, what is the total limit of deduction in a wage period. Then bonus, who is eligible for bonus, who is not eligible for bonus, what is the minimum bonus, what is the maximum bonus, what is the allocatable surplus, and for the first 5 years no set off. For beyond that you can set on and set off your allocatable surplus for payment of bonus. So on the scheme another and then how the number of days are being calculated. That is with respect to bonus. Within how many days bonus should be paid? What are the deductions from the gross profit to arrive at the allocatable surplus? To whom Bonus Act does not apply. Bonus provisions of Code of Wages Act does not apply. Advisory board order, you can just go through that. Inspector, again very important. Who is the inspector? What are the powers of inspector? And how is the claim settled? Maximum claim 90 days, 90 days. Renduku 90 days da. First claim 90 days kulla settle panno. Second, you go for an appeal within 90 days. Appeal should be settled again within 3 months. So everything is 3 months or 90 days for the settlement process. Okay.